Good morning, everybody, and thank you for watching my tutorial. This is the tutorial for a Zoom class held on Sunday the 16th of May 2021, and this is the pop-up vase, and we made this together in that Zoom class, but this is the tutorial for those that weren't able to join me on the day. So it's just a normal card. This is the normal not sure what actual size, I think is what we call A6. So it's an A5 cardstock folded in half, and then that fits into a standard envelope. And I have done 3 panels here on the front, but you could just as easily just do 1 panel. I just broke it up a little bit. These little ephemera with thanks a bunch on it, they were in the card making value box that very, very quickly sold out earlier on this year. And these papers are from the collage pack as well for that collection. That was, I think, the Spring Meadow collection. And that's those there. And I've just coloured that little butterfly down the bottom here and put a little bit of glitter glue on the top of that. And the same with that. I just coloured that little ribbon. Actually, I think that ribbon might have already been coloured. I can't remember now. And then just put the glitter onto the top of that. And I've just done little glittery bits there in those flowers as well. And then when you open that up, and that's just up on foam tape. And then when you open that up is where you get your little pop-up vase. How cool is that? So that's dimensional. And it's just on this, works on this little mechanism here. It just brings it forward as it comes forward. It pops up, and so you get that curved shape there. And then I've just added a little clear sentiment. They come in, might not, oh, there we go. These come in sheets of 2 sheets, and each sheet has the same little sentiments on it. You just peel them off and they're clear. And then I've just done paper flowers. These little butterflies come out of the little ephemera pack that are with this as well. And then I've just cut some paper. That can be anything. I've used the double-sided paper. It's just a nice weight. You could use cardstock, but you wouldn't want it to be too thick, and you wouldn't want really thin paper. But our double-sided paper works really well for that. And then just put some little little gems on the tops. I've used little stems here, and they're just cardstock folded in half to give it a little bit of, so it's a little bit stable. And then just ink blended around it. And I've left mine blank here, but obviously you could put a sentiment. You could also matte and layer that as well. If you are going to matte and layer that, you need to put that matte and layer on first before you put this little mechanism on. Otherwise it won't work. So that's what we're going to make today. So this is my first Zoom class back in 2021. For those that have been following along with my Zoom classes last year will know that I relocated from Darwin after having spent 18 years there, and I've relocated back to Bundaberg, which is in Queensland, and that's my hometown. So I'm doing this little tutorial from my camper trailer because at this point we haven't been able to secure a house. Like everywhere in Australia at the moment, housing either for rent or buy is getting scarce. So we're in our camper trailer at the back of my mum's place, and she lives at Bargara on the beach. So I'm just going to fold that in half and just make a normal card fold here. And then I'm just going to adhere my panels on. I could have done this in advance. Now, when I cut these layers, I've cut it from a full sheet. So these are one after the other on that sheet. And so that's how I will attach them onto the card as well. Like I said, you could have just done 1 panel, but I think it just makes it look a little bit different. And so I've chosen to do the 3 panels. You could have done it in 2 panels. There's, no right or wrong way to do that. It's just whatever you want to do on the front of it, actually. Now, I'm just using double-sided tape, and this cardstock is texture on one side and smooth on the other. I generally always want my texture to be on the top. Just, oh, that's not even borders all the way around. Just having the texture on the top gives you that, you know, it adds a bit of dimension as well. That's better. So I'll just adhere these on now. I generally like to put 3 strips on. I don't, I always want to make sure it's going to stay. And I don't like, if you can see that if it's lifting, so I tend to stick enough on it that it stays in place. And using black and white has allowed me then to do that, just that one little butterfly in colour. And again, it just makes it a focal point on your card, because everything else is in black and white. And that's the fun about using black and white, is you can just use, you know, colour one little piece in, and it just pops the whole piece. Then it just gives it that little coloured focal point. All right, so they're on, and then I'm just going to put these on that cardstock. Now, when you're doing breaking up like I have, and I've got 3 little panels, you want to do your top and your bottom first and get those spaced out, so that then all the middle one is you're just filling the gap in. So if you did them one after the other, you'll end up at the bottom and you won't have enough, you know, it's likely you won't have the right kind of gap that you want, you know, for that even spacing. So just like I said, mine have been cut one after the other, so I want to make sure that I lay them on. And I usually will do a little dry run here, and then the bottom one down here. And all I'm trying to aim for is even gaps around. Oop. There we go, something like that. And then I'll just put them on. You could colour the whole lot in the black and white if you wanted to. I've chosen not to, just to give it that focal point. And again, you could do this in one piece if you didn't want to break that up into 3 lots. Now, I'm not going to fully push this down, so if I do end up at the bottom and then the middle one is a bit wonky, I will just move them. So that's also an advantage of doing tape over glue, is you know, you can get that back up if you need to, if you haven't really stuck it down. Once you sort of press and burnish in tape, it will stick, but you do have the opportunity to be able to move it if you need. And I'm just going to move that layer too, because that's not quite on there. You just peel it up gently. Oops, took a little bit off the end there, but that's okay. Gets a bit tricky when doing multiple layers, because you know, it will show up if those layers are not straight. And I just adhered that to my mat. It's clever. And okay, this is going to work out really well. Perfect. So that's just got the even layers then, and it just breaks it up, but you still get to see what that pattern is. Now, this here is going to go on the front, but I'm not going to put this on now because I need to be able to work on the inside without it interfering with any layers on the front. Okay, so now we're going to make the vase. So this piece here was 6 centimeters by 12.5, and we're going to do some scoring on that. We need to score so that we can cut out some little panel pieces. Now, on the short side, but on the wrong side, so this is what I'm going to class as my right side, because I want that showing. So this will be my wrong side. I want to score at 2 and 4. 2 and 4, which should give me, oh, sorry, this is supposed to be on the short side. So this is 6 centimeters, so 2 and 4. Actually, I want to do the long side first. We want to score at 2.5 centimeters on each end. So I tend to just go 2.5, turn it around and do 2.5. And the reason we do this one first is because when we do the ones along on the short side, we don't need it to go all the way through. We just need it to go to that first score line. So along this side then, we want to do at 2 centimetres. And now we're back on the right side and down to that score line. And if you're like me, it's a bit tricky because you can't really see that score line, but you just have to kind of do a bit by braille. And then at 4. So you've essentially then got, you can't really see that well, I'm sorry. You will have 3 panels of 2 centimetres. And then you do exactly the same thing on the other side. Score it at 2 down to that score line. I've sort of just got my finger there and I can eyeball. It doesn't really matter if you go past it. What you're going to be doing is cutting out these little panels. Right, so that's all the scoring that you need to do. Now you don't really need to burnish these down all the way. You can just press them down by hand. And then you're actually going to cut these pieces out. So you're going to end up with a tab on one end and in the center and 2 tabs at the end here. And it doesn't really matter which one you cut out first. So like I said, mine's a little bit hard to see. So I'm going to cut out, and you want to cut away the score line. It's a bit tricky when you can't see it, but anyway. You could go back and mark it with a pencil or something. So I'm going to cut, so I keep that tab there. So I'm cutting away. I'll cut up here first so I don't go past it. Very tricky trying to find those score lines. Right, so then you end up with a tab on that side. And then we're going to do the opposite. So we want to keep these 2 outer ones. So again, cut away the score line. And then when you've got to leave, when you're just trying to cut that piece out, just fold these 2 back, and then you'll be able to cut up. Okay. And you're left with that. So this end here, you have also, there's a little piece that is 2 centimetres by 10 centimetres. And I think I might be short on, I'll have to cut another little piece in a minute. And this piece, let me just check. I think this actually might be my 5 centimetre. Yep. I don't know what I have done. I'm missing a piece. Just excuse me. I haven't done my 2 centimetre by 10 centimetre piece, and that is actually going to sit along here. So let me just quickly cut that piece. And that's the piece that I'm cutting is here, is this little piece here. It's the actual mechanism that makes your vase sit properly. So it needs to be 2 centimetres, which is the same width as that little tab we just cut, by 10 centimetres long. Right. And we need to score this little piece as well, sorry. So we want to score it at 1 centimetres long along that long side there. So this was 10, so if we bring it down to 9 and then score at 1. So you end up with a little, oop, can't really see that. Sorry for the lighting. I am doing this, there it is there. I'm doing this in my camp trailer, so the lighting's not the best. I apologise for that. So we want to adhere this piece onto here, but put it onto the back, although it probably doesn't really matter because, you know, you're not going to see it inside. So it doesn't really matter which way you go. Now, if your piece is a little bit you know, when you've cut your score out and then you've gone to put this piece on and it's that little bit wider, you do want to make sure you cut it down a bit, because this piece has got to be able to get through this here unimpeded. So I am just going to trim a little section off that, and I'm going to try and do that on this trimmer because I've got the camera on my other one. I'm going to have to disturb the camera arms. Actually, it's not my camera. Right, so just a little, it won't actually matter if it's a slight bit smaller, but you don't want it to overhang. So I'm just going to trim, and that's where these, it was just the slightest little bit I've trimmed off. That's where these guillotines are brilliant for that sort of thing. So now then this piece should be essentially the same width, and it will then also fit through this little gap here. So we put tape onto the tab. I'm just going to peel one off there. I want tape all over this because this is a movable mechanism. So you don't really want any chance of that to come off. And then add that onto here. Just banish that on. Right. So now when we attach this piece, now I've got to put tape. So I'm just looking at my notes here. I need to have tape on this end here too. And just making sure that I've got this. This tab piece here, essentially when you're lining it up to start with, you're lining it up into the crease here, and you've got the tape on the top side. And then you want to make sure that the bottom of the vase is not protruding past, so you might want to just have it just slightly above the top there. And then this piece, the end of this tab sits into the crease on here, and you want to make sure it's all nice and straight. So I'm just going to put some tape onto that piece, end piece here. And again, this piece is got a little bit of movement on it as well. So I would stick a second piece of tape onto there, just so that you've got the whole thing covered. You could glue it, although glue might get a bit tricky if you didn't quite get it lined up properly. So again, the end of this with the tape facing up, the sticky part of the tape facing up, needs to go into the crease, and you want to make sure that you're not protruding past the end of your card and that you're sort of all nice and neat, you know, like you're not crooked and that there. And then you just fold your card over, make sure that that is right into the crease, not protruding down, and then fold your card over. And that's going to pick up that little mechanism. Now, if you were going to put matte and layer on this side here, you need to put that on first before you do this little bit here. Otherwise, it's going to interfere with that little mechanism. Now, we want tape onto these ones here. And I'm hopeful I've got this the right way, which I don't think I have. I have a feeling I've done that wrong. That would have worked. I've done it backwards. All right, just excuse me a moment. I shall fix this up. All right, so all I've done is I've turned it around. Before I had this blue side out here, and I needed to have it facing down because this piece is going to now come over and sit that way, and then that's the side that I want showing. So I just had it around the opposite way to what it should have been. So when you attach your little mechanism piece, you need to make sure that you're attaching it to the inside of your vase, not the outside. Now, before we go any further, we have this little piece here, which is 5 centimeters by 1.5, and it's going to sit over here. Now, if you hear a noise coming in, that's just my husband coming in. And that's the zip of the camper. And this little piece sits here, and it just stops it all from moving that way. So you just need a little bit of tape onto the end here and here. And again, I wouldn't use glue, because if you glue and then it glues into the wrong spot, or you need to move it, you're not going to be able to do it. This piece here doesn't have a lot of weight on it, but you're just keeping this aligned here, and that's all that it's doing, and just sort of place it so that you don't want it right up to the edge here, just give it a little bit, but it's just there to hold everything from moving up and down that way, and just it can go freely that way. Right, so then we want tape onto this side of your vase, because these are going to tuck in. So you won't see that. Again, I would put I would cover the whole thing. So for me, that's 3 strips of tape, because this piece is a moving piece. So you do want to make sure that it's going to stay in place. And then we'll just peel it out. Now this next little bit that we're going to do, it's not hard. It's just probably a little fiddly. So just take your time with it so that you can get it all into place and it sits all down properly. Again, the advantage of using tape is if you do need to maneuver it a bit, then you can do that. Whereas if you're using glue, you might not be able to do that. So these pieces fold in, but you don't want to go and stick it down. You want to just hold it in place, because you're going to have to close the card. So that's why we don't stick it down. So you're moving your card, and you're probably going to not be able to see this properly. But as you move this mechanism is moving the vase backwards this way. And then once your card is flat, you can go ahead and press it down. Now, you want to also make sure that when it sits down, that it's going to be sitting flat. I'm just going to lightly press that in place. Now see how when I press that flat, that's right down there, but this side's not. So I actually want to, it's skewed. And this is, you may just have to keep fiddling with this until you can get it so it doesn't. That's just, you just got to play with it, that's all. So do it nice and gently. Let's see what that comes up. That's better. So you can't see anything when it's all folded out. It's not overhanging. And then when you open it up, there's your little vase. So that's what it looks like so far. And then from this point, you're just decorating. And it folds flat and then pops out. Now, where I put these little, I'll just peel these off, and I just put mine on there. So I'm going to, the front of mine says, thanks ever so much. And I think I'm going to put, life is sweet. So you could make these into any kind of sentiment cards. These would have been great for a Mother's Day card. Just a hello, friend, anything really. They're just a nice little card to send a little bunch of flowers in the paper world. And that's just sits on there. And then I've just used strips. So these little strips are, oh, what size were they? I think they were 1 centimeters, and just in strips. folded in half, glued together. It just gives them a bit more strength to it. And you're literally just going to glue these on now. And you sort of, placement of these is just going to come down to personal choice. So you're just gluing on the end of your flower. And I've just coloured my paper flowers with oxide ink, put a little gem in the side of it, and I've just attached that to there. And then you just work out where you want to put them and how long your stems are going to be. So I'm going to start off in the middle. I'm going to make my stem a bit shorter here. Put glue on that end, and you're just going to place it. Now, one thing you've got to keep in mind here, which I didn't on my first card, is when you're working on it like that, everything is enclosed. But when you go to fold it, remembering this is going to go flat, and see how these flowers have just sort of overhung? You just need to keep an eye on those ones on the sides. So I'll be able to use this little stem here from that offcut. And you could decorate this with anything. I just happen to have some paper flowers around. So this is where this one here needs to be careful. And you kind of, if you're doing it with glue, you've got to be quick. If you put it in and then you want to check it's not going to overhang, do it really quickly. Because if you have to move it, you don't want that glue to take a hold. And then you just keep doing that until you've decorated to what you want to do. Hopefully I've got enough stems here. If not, I'll have to cut a few more. I'm going to cut this one down short. And these ones, they can be over this way because they're going to move. Everything's going to move that way over to this side. Put my little butterfly on. I've just put a bit of glitter glue in that little butterfly there. Give him a little bit of shine. Such a simple little card to make, and once you get used to that little mechanism, it's fine. He's going to go down low, that little butterfly. Actually, no. Oh, no, he can go there. I was going to move him. I kind of put my placement of my flowers a little bit skewed this time. I might not get that next flower in, so I'm just going to see what happens. I might have to, I could put that flower onto there if I want. I want to sort of build a little bit up into there. So I need to make that stem pretty long. You just got to bring your finger up into there and press down. So I don't know that I'm going to get another flower into there, but what I can do is put that flower, I could put that flower on there, or I'll just see what that looks like. I think I might even just leave it. You start to put too many and, you know, it gets lost a bit. I could put it in there. I'd have to be careful that and I don't have any more stems. I'm actually think I'm going to just leave that. But, you know, you just do it to what you think looks really nice. I could have put my butterfly down here and then kept going, but I like it the way it is. Always be happy with what you do. Now, this Thanks a Bunch is just chipboard, and I have used, and I've just embossed it over the top. It's with those mixed media embossing powders. They're just divine. They've got little flecks of bits and pieces all through it, and they just come up really nice. So I'm just going to attach this with glossy accents. Just go light-handed with glossy accents because it does dry shiny. But I use it with everything. And then I'm just going to put that onto here. This is another ephemera from that card making kit, and it fits neatly onto there. And then I'm going to pop that up onto, I've lost my lid. And I'm going to pop that up onto foam. There's no end to how you can decorate these cards. This all just comes down to personal choice once you've got your mechanism in place. And you could make that mechanism, you know, or that piece, instead of being a vase, you know, if you're clever, you could turn it into something else. I just kept it at a vase. And then this goes on the front. You could also stamp a sentiment in there as well. I've just left mine blank for this moment, but it would be easy enough. And if you were going to do that, you'd probably want to do that before you got everything on, so your card's nice and flat to start with. And then this just sits centrally onto here. There we go. So that's the pop-up vase. The front of the card is just however you want to decorate it. And then this piece here just comes out. It's dimensional, so when it's sitting up on a mantelpiece or whatever, you'll be able to see that it's got a bit of dimension to it. And like I said, you could do anything here. You could emboss this in an embossing folder. I probably could have put another little one out here. You know, placement of your flowers is, you know, really, it's up to you how you place your flowers. That's using the extra flower, and I put my butterfly up. So that's the pop-up vase. I hope I've inspired you to go out and try your own. Please leave a comment, subscribe to my channel and click that little notification bell, and then when I pop these videos up every fortnight, you'll be able to catch the next one. And I hope to maybe see you in my Zoom classes. They are free classes to everybody. You just need to download the Zoom app, and they are every fortnight, and we make this together. So thanks for joining me. I hope you have a great day. Bye for now.